Hello again, people. I am back here this time to do what could be called a book overview. I don't know if I can call it a review, because it's for Stephen King's It, all right, which I just finished. Well, a few days ago I finished it. All right, of course, this book needs no real review because it's very familiar to everybody. I just wanted to record my thoughts on it, you know, and of course, this is probably Stephen King's most well-known book, and this is in fact a reread for me because this was the original version that I read way back in the day, in I believe in my early 20s or something. So it's quite some time ago. All right, but when the movie came out, I decided to buy myself a hardcover version of it, a modern hardcover version, because it has a larger type and the pages are white, or rather, clear, not pure white, because this one, that has a very small type and it's already starting to yellow. So I thought it would be, if I reread this one, it would be a little hard on the eyes. But anyway, it took me a long time to reread this. I started early in the year, then I let it go for a few months. In the interim, I read a couple of other books, horror books, in fact, classics, The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby. Then I came back to this one and finished it. Of course, it's an awesome book, as it states back here, the Moby Dick of horror novels, and boy is it. And one of the things I'd like to state is that, of course, nowadays this book is completely identified with the clown, Pennywise the clown. However, the entity that is known as It, that is called It, is in fact a cosmic entity, very Lovecraftian in nature, and that's something that doesn't come across in the movie, the TV miniseries, or the recent movie. All right, so it's a cosmic entity that comes to Earth, and it has the ability to shapeshift. The clown is only one of its personas. And of course, you might think, well, why does a cosmic entity fight against a bunch of kids, as it does in the book? Because when it does so, that's how it has to take on a physical form. And that physical form is taken from the minds of those that it preys on. In this case, it's children. It preys on children because they have the most powerful imaginations. All right. Of course, as you know, if you've seen the TV miniseries or seen the movie, this book is told in two timelines. First in the 1950s, and then in the 1980s. I believe it is 58 and 85, right, with a 27-year difference between them. And the book, what it does is it alternates between the two timelines, something that the miniseries does not. It, I believe, wisely separates both timelines and tells both stories, separately, as does the modern adaptation. In this one, we only see the story of the kids. As of the making of this video, the part 2 with the adults has not yet been released. All right. Well, anyway, a huge book. Let me see. It's 1,000 and 1,153 pages. All right, in this edition. All right, but in any edition that you get, it's going to be over 1,000 pages. All right, and is it too long? Probably. They say that about all of Stephen King's books, that they are too long. But this is not just a story about some monster. It's a story about an entire town, in this case Derry, Maine, that is haunted by that monster. So it's not just a haunted house or a haunted hotel like in The Shining, or a neighborhood. It's the entire town that is haunted, and all of the people in the town, even though they may not be the direct victims of it, they are all affected by it. All right, and that's something that comes across here in the book that you don't get in the movie adaptations. Very well. Of course, I reread it and I enjoyed it very much. There were some details that I still remembered very clearly, others that were a bit hazy. And one thing that I do admit, that when I read this version, back in the day, I did skim over the ending, because it was just wearing me down, and I skimmed over some of the parts here in the ending just to get to the ending. All right, but it does have a pretty good ending, and one that leaves you satisfied. Something that sometimes is lacking in Stephen King's book, but this one has a very good ending, I believe. All right, well, Stephen King's It, recommended if you are brave enough to face this behemoth. Okay, so at the end of this video, I'm going to put also some Pennywise drawings that I made. All right, see what you think of those. Recommended It. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the drawings that I just mentioned. So long. This was my first attempt. I wanted to showcase the shape-shifting abilities of the creature known as It. Brush and ink. Also a bit of quill. Pencil drawing, of course, inspired by the recent movie version of It. This last one was done with a pocket pencil brush pen, which allows you to a much freer stroke. I think it came out pretty good.